You're watching This Week in Louisiana Politics with Fred Childers.
Good Sunday morning to you. I'm Fred Childers. Thanks for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics on your local election headquarters. We have a lot of political news happening in the state, so let's get to it. This week he made it official. Governor John Bel Edwards will be running for a second term as the leader of Louisiana. Now, he kicked off his re-election campaign with a couple of stops in Lafayette. Renee Allen was there as the governor began his tour.
Governor Edwards says the CGI has twice the number of employees now than when it first opened in Lafayette several years ago.
And what a critical partnership we have between the university and the private sector that allows for this investment, this job creation.
The governor says in moving forward, he intends to focus on additional investments in education and meeting the obligation of the state's higher education scholarship program TOPS.
We're now $2,200 below the Southern Regional average on teacher pay. And so I want $1,000 per teacher there and $500 per support worker. Don's
Seafood in downtown Lafayette was the governor's second stop on the heels of his re-election campaign kickoff.
And for the first time in decades, your governor can look at you and say, Louisiana does not have the highest incarceration rate.
The owner of Don's Seafood downtown said it's an honor to host a governor.
I've had him in here, probably all the governors, some politicians, some movie stars over the years.
The governor was welcomed by an audience of community leaders, advocates, and lawmakers.
Not only in the election initiative, but he's been in this city many times. So, I mean, that speaks about who he is.
It speaks volume that he's come to Lafayette to talk to the people about what he wants to continue to do.
So far, 2 Republicans have announced they will run this fall. Congressman Ralph Abraham from Monroe and Baton Rouge businessman Eddie Risponi will challenge Edwards. Former Congressman John Fleming is also considering a run for the governor. Now, with the federal government shutdown now standing at more than a month, the impacts have been felt across the state, including at the National Weather Service office. Danielle Giuliano explains Weather Service officials are prepared to keep you safe even without taking home a paycheck.
From blizzards to tornadoes, the National Weather Service employees have had their hands full this year.
You know, we've had quite a few major winter storms, so it's not as if there's not a lot of things going on in the weather to be concerned about.
The NWS issues important warnings to keep people safe. Even though the meteorologists are working without pay, the NWS is fully staffed.
Most of the employees there that do the forecasting are considered essential, or what we refer to as accepted. So they report to work and continue to provide forecasting services.
This past weekend, we had our fair share of severe weather here in southeast Louisiana, and the NWS didn't skip a beat with issuing warnings.
I want to get the message out there that the forecast that the public is getting is as good as it's ever been. It's not degrading, but we are being delayed in our ability to improve it.
These meteorologists will continue to work around the clock because what they provide is critical information.
I just can't tell you how proud I am of the whole team, the whole NOAA team. It's just, you know, it's a humbling experience to see how dedicated these people are.
For your local election headquarters, I'm Danielle Giuliano.
Now, the shutdown has left dozens of security agents working without pay at Baton Rouge Metro Airport. But as Harrison Golden explains, the federal woes are giving some volunteers food for thought.
The flights keep running at Baton Rouge Metro Airport with a little fuel.
This is the least that we can do.
Just past the airport's TSA checkpoint, Antoine Pierce and Chef Nicoya Payne serve up a breakfast of scrambled eggs, sausages, and quiche for security agents who haven't gotten paychecks in just about a month.
It's beyond politics at this point. It's human suffering, and we don't want to see that happen. That's un-American.
The volunteers started offering the meals on Monday with a green light from airport management.
I think anybody in the public can relate to going X number of weeks without a check.
BTR itself is also pitching in Airport officials are placing drop boxes for the public to donate groceries to the more than 40 TSA staff on site.
Dedicated people here that are continuing to work.
No TSA workers we met wanted to speak on camera for fear of losing their jobs. But off camera, one said he's considering a part-time job to help pay the bills, though others said that's out of the question, since for all they know, this shutdown could end tomorrow.
Time isn't on their side.
This is hurting real people.
Pierce hopes donations can keep the daily breakfasts going until the shutdown is done.
Just to let them know that we care, and that we see you.
For NBC Local 33 News, I'm Harrison Golden.
Now, the Salvation Army is extending its food assistance program to federal workers impacted by the shutdown. Organization leaders say the Salvation Army will provide food assistance through 1 month after the shutdown ends to government employees. Well, the shutdown is also having a negative impact on the FBI. Officials have gathered information on how federal investigations are being undermined by the shutdown. Drew Petrimo explains the feds are having a tough time continuing work on counterterrorism, drug enforcement, child protection, and more.
It's more than a month into the government shutdown. Now FBI agents say it's affecting the core of their mission.
The agents and support employees will continue to do the very best we possibly can with what we have, but that is getting much more difficult day by day.
To drive home the impact, the FBI Agents Association released a report Tuesday from field offices across the country. One from the Southeast quotes an agent saying, on the child exploitation side, as an undercover employee, I have had to put pervs on standby. This puts children in jeopardy.
The report also contains stories of investigations halted, victim services cut off, and trainings delayed.
Tom O'Connor is the FBI union's president.
Voices from the field paints a vivid and troubling picture of the cost of the ongoing shutdown.
Child exploitation, financial fraud, corruption.
Brian O'Hare is an agent who works cases in East Tennessee. He says the shutdown is also causing pain for FBI agents personally.
There are agents who are already impacted significantly, and every paycheck we go, that impact grabs up more agents.
13,000 FBI employees are set to miss their second paycheck on Friday, forcing some to rely on agency food drives for groceries.
The FBI family comes together in times of crisis. It is truly sad that we must resort to this.
The agents say their message is not political. One way or another, they just want the government funded. In Washington, I'm Drew Petrimo.
This week, the clash over the State of the Union address came to a head with Speaker Nancy Pelosi rescinding her invitation to the president to address the nation from the House chamber in the annual State of the Union address. President Donald Trump tweeted that the State of the Union would not happen until the shutdown is finished. Abby Phillips takes a look at how we got to this point.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
The State of the Union coming to a screeching halt today as House Speaker Nancy Pelosi yanks her invitation to President Trump, citing the 33-day-old shutdown.
The State of the Union speech has been canceled by Nancy Pelosi because she doesn't want to hear the truth.
The government is still shut down. I still make the offer as both a mutually agreeable date, as the original date was mutually agreeable, so that we can welcome and probably.
We just found out that she's canceled it, and I think that's a great blotch on the incredible country that we all love.
Her response coming hours after Trump told Pelosi in a sarcasm-laden letter that he was making plans to be there on time, on schedule, and very importantly, on location. Pelosi's move seeming to catch the president off guard.
I'm not surprised. It's really a shame what's happening with the Democrats. They've become radicalized.
As sources tell CNN, Trump and Pelosi haven't spoken for 2 weeks, the president predicting the shutdown won't be over anytime soon.
This will go on for a while.
The White House planned to ratchet up the pressure on Pelosi in the coming days, forcing her to either allow the speech to go forward in the House chamber or cancel it altogether. But aides are increasingly concerned that alternative venues for a presidential address won't pass muster, especially a campaign-style rally that might be dismissed as just another political speech.
Lord, as some members of our armed forces seek sustenance at charity food pantries and prepare to miss a second payday, something has to give.
All this as the real-world impacts of the shutdown are piling up. Frustrated federal workers and Coast Guard leadership speaking out.
I find it unacceptable that Coast Guard men and women have to rely on food pantries and donations to get through day-to-day life as service members.
One top Trump economic advisor even predicting this stunning result if the shutdown continues another month.
Could we get zero growth? I just want to nail this down.
Yes,
for the,
we could.
We could. Okay.
We could. Yes.
All right.
If it extended for the whole quarter, and given the fact that the first quarter tends to be low because of residual seasonality, then you could end up with a number very close to zero in the first quarter. But then again, the second quarter number would be humongous if the government reopened.
Meantime, President Trump doubling down on the showmanship, even rolling out a new slogan to take Republicans into the 2020 campaign: build a wall and crime will fall. As federal workers brace for a second missed paycheck of the shutdown on Friday, he added, use it and pray. All this as new polls show the president may be on shaky ground. 71% say the wall isn't worth shutting down the government in a new CBS poll, and the president's approval rating has fallen to 37% during the shutdown, according to a CNN average of 5 recent polls. Asked how the president justifies keeping the government shut down until he gets his wall, counselor to the president Kellyanne Conway focused on semantics.
And so why would that be the question?
No.
Why is that a good question?
What is the president's...
And I'm asking you why you're still saying wall when the president has said... I'm asking why you in the polling questions, respectfully, are still saying wall when the president said you can call it whatever you want. Call it steel slab barriers, call it... Well, I was in the Situation Room when he said to Leader Schumer, Minority Leader Schumer,
he said it was a new slogan when he called it a wall this morning.
Yes, that's a great slogan, build a wall and crime will fall. Well, we know that's true.
Well, U.S. Senator John Kennedy was in Louisiana this week talking shutdown and more at an event in Ascension Parish. Now, he was asked about the governor's proposed minimum wage hike, which he said he'd support with one caveat.
He's proposed a minimum wage increase. I'm all for that if he gives the businesses impacted a tax credit and lets the state of Louisiana pay for it. Because, I mean, anybody can be for a minimum wage increase. The problem is how to pay for it. And once again, the governor wants the business community to pay for it. If he's serious about improving wages in the state, I hope he is, I am, then what he ought to do is say, here's the deal. Business community, I want you to raise the minimum wage, and I'm going to give you a state tax credit to do it.
And there's the caveat. Coming up next, we're talking to a state senator from Ascension Parish about what he expects in the upcoming legislative session, and we'll get his take on the tax break controversy between East Baton Rouge Parish Schools and Exxon. That's next.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back to This Week in Louisiana Politics. I'm joined now by Senator Eddie Lambert. He is a Republican from Ascension Parish, and you also represent St. James and Livingston Parish in the state. Thanks for coming on the show.
It's my pleasure.
Well, we wanted to talk to you a little bit about what you're doing in Ascension Parish also, but before we get to that, we have a regular session coming up in April, and last summer those sessions, I believe 3 special sessions and a regular session, were contentious to say the least. I mean, there were a lot of fireworks over the taxes and the revenue raising measures. What can we expect in the upcoming session?
I don't think we'll have near the fireworks that we had last time. I think the biggest thing is going to be teacher pay raises to see how we can work that into the budget.
How are you on that?
I'm for it. I think we need to really pay our teachers more money. They really have a very important job in educating our youth and preparing our youth to compete in today's economy and the world.
Yeah. Are you working on anything specifically to Ascension Parish?
Well, most of our things in Ascension Parish are road related and infrastructure. We're growing tremendously. We've got a lot of projects going. We've probably got more being spent in Ascension Parish than any time this year. We're doing A lot of improvements on Highway 44 intersections. We got Highway 42 going. We got roundabouts that are in the planning stage or actually early construction stage. So we have a lot. And then we also have in Livingston, we have a lot of issues there with a lot of traffic. They're bedroom communities.
All right. Looking forward to a more peaceful session coming up.
Oh, definitely. Anything can be better than the last 4 sessions we ran.
Yeah, and we can't be all peaceful here. We got to talk a little bit about some controversy. I wanted to get your reaction. It's a little bit outside your area, but a lot of people are talking about it, especially in the business community. I wanted to get your reaction to EBR schools not approving the tax exemption for Exxon, and what are the implications to that?
You know, I'm afraid the implications could be pretty serious. I mean, a lot of these plants are competing not only on a national but an international level, and it's very competitive for these jobs. I know St. James, Ascension have really gone after them, and we've seen tremendous economic growth. It used to be you'd think that they wasn't going to come here, but I've seen plants like Methanex leave in the late 80s in Ascension and actually come back again and reconstruct a plant here. Yeah. And they just bring so many jobs and a lot of high-paying jobs.
So jobs could be at risk?
Oh, I think so. You know, any of these plants have to be constantly updating to stay with the technology, and they wear out, so you have to keep reinvesting in them. And there's a point when if you quit reinvesting in them, they may ultimately leave.
And it's related to the teacher pay raise you were just talking about.
Well, I think the more tax revenue you have, the more you can do with it, and that could be a problem.
All right, okay, well, we appreciate you coming on the show. Senator Eddie Lambert, Republican from Livingston Parish, thank you so much.
Thank you, it was my pleasure.
All right, stay with us, we'll be right back.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. Outside New Orleans this past weekend, some of the nation's top Republicans were huddling up as GOP leaders host an event dubbed a kickoff to the 2020 White House race. But some races this year in Louisiana are taking center stage. Capitol correspondent Harrison Golden explains.
Hey there, well, this year's Southern Republican Leadership Conference marks the first one since 2015. You may recall last time it was in Oklahoma City and largely served as a stepping stone as Republicans look to take back the White House in 2016. This time around, it's more focused on the state level here and the effort to unseat Louisiana's Democratic governor this fall.
Our fight to regain the governorship of Louisiana begins here, begins today, begins right now.
Similar words from House Speaker Taylor Barra, who claimed to the crowd that Governor John Bel Edwards has sought to oust him from that legislative post.
Unfortunately, we have an administration in Baton Rouge that will spend every nickel you put in front of them. And so they go searching for nickels because as soon as we find them, they want to spend them.
Now the term-limited speaker saying Governor Edwards has made Louisiana, quote, drunk on federal funds. Barra says before he goes back to being a banker in January, he wants Republicans to inch ever closer toward a supermajority in the State House when the October elections roll around.
Especially if by some fluke in our system that this governor gets reelected.
Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser on hand as well, largely to discuss the state's tourism effort. Then Congressman Steve Scalise, who called the Republican Nungesser, quote, our governor. By all indications, a jab at the Democrat Edwards.
The reason you go out and fight to help get more Republicans elected, it's a critical fight. I appreciate that you're doing it because we're winning in Louisiana.
Meanwhile, Governor Edwards was not invited to this weekend's GOP conclave. He's at an agriculture convention in West Monroe, though he told one reporter today that he's glad that national Republicans are bringing their business to Louisiana. In Kenner, for your local election headquarters, I'm Harrison Golden.
Up next, we'll have a look at the week ahead on your local election headquarters.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. Let's give you a preview of what you can expect in the coming week. Taking a look at the schedule this week, Adam Knapp, the president and CEO of the Baton Rouge Area Chamber, will speak at the Press Club of Baton Rouge tomorrow morning at 11:30. It's called Thinking Bigger in 2019. The Press Club meets at the Belle of Baton Rouge Hotel. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics. I'm Fred Childers. I'll see you next Sunday right here on your local election headquarters.